Hello, everyone, and it's such a pleasure to have Dr. Adrijana Kekic here from the Center for Individualized Medicine at Mayo Clinic. Adriana, welcome.
Thank you, Alan. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invite.
It's wonderful to have you here. And since it's the main goal of these interviews is to actually inspire the future generation, the young biomedical researchers, aspiring scientists, I want to, start with an obvious but very important question. That is, what would be the most important advice for younger colleagues aspiring towards a successful scientific career, in your opinion?
Continue to be curious. Make sure that you nurture that curiosity. Have an open mind. Have a notebook. I'll show you right now. I have a little notebook that I carry with me everywhere. This is basically iteration number 20, probably, of the ideas or the questions, or maybe questions that have not been answered yet, but perhaps you're reading about them and you're formulating some thoughts about them. The second one would be the importance of networking. And when I say, nurture your curiosity, one of the wonderful ways that I found that, how I have, nurtured mine has been through meeting wonderful people like you, and then having these
Likewise.
no, but you know how it is, having these discussions. What do you think about that? Have you heard about that? And then you expand your worldview and expand the tools that you can bring to think through those questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think networking is such an important part of life in general, especially when you're at a younger age, meeting new people. You never know where that might lead to, what opportunities that might open. I think it's such an amazing thing. And that's why I, always tell younger people, go to conferences, go to lectures, email people, they will respond. And some people, tell me, and I don't know if you agree with this, many
Yeah.
people tell me, oh, I'm just a student, I cannot email a Nobel laureate or Adriana from Mayo Clinic. She will never respond to me, right?
Yeah, I could not agree more with you. I'm going to add one thing that I always tell all of my colleagues, not just students or residents or fellows, all of my colleagues. And that is, it's not just who you know, which is, I think, a lot of times what people think, oh, if I go and network, I will meet somebody. It's also who knows you. So there is a huge component of when you look at the people like yourself and other colleagues in our sphere, in our ecosphere, and others adjacent fields, it's how they show their work. It's that importance of not just keeping what you know here, but truly sharing it with others, because that's where the magic actually happens. So I always encourage students especially to learn how to be effective communicators. And I think most of the students that I see now, and I think you probably, Alan, as well, when I contrast somebody like myself who did not grow up in a digital age, all of the younger learners and students grew up in a digital age. So for them, this way of connecting and communicating in a maybe in these virtual and digital platforms comes more naturally than it was for somebody like me. And I think there is much to be leveraged there. So agree 100% with you. Don't be shy. Be respectful. Be curious. Don't be shy. We all want to, unveil more answers to these questions we're trying to answer.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you speaking about important, let's say, aspects of early career researchers, networking, we mentioned, stay curious or be curious, be proactively curious. That's like the second thing. And maybe the third thing in general is a general kind of skill set needed to potentially succeed in research. So what do you think is the skill set needed for early career scientists to have a successful research career?
Oh, this is a good question. I think what is needed in a so beyond what we talked about, I think it's really helpful to have good mentors and sponsors, which goes back to what you just said. When you connect with somebody, if you have maybe you look up to somebody who has in your mind how you define a successful career path, I would say don't shy away from reaching in a way that would be mutually beneficial. So not only are you asking them for guidance and maybe to show you how you critically think through, because you need to still have a structure that has been proven, evidence-based structure, if you will, that you can then apply and say, oh, I see how I think through these problems, or oh, I see how I use these tools, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. But going back to what I mentioned, mutually beneficial. Not only are you asking them to give you that guidance, but you are also bringing this positive, hopefully new energy, new eyes that can help them also then do what they're doing in maybe more enriched ways. So the importance of having or knowing who to ask, so having sponsors or mentors that can really guide you through this structured experience that they have already gone through. So there is enrichment of all kinds of ways that you can go based on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the importance of having a quality mentor who's going to give you their, super valuable time. Basically, they're giving you their experience over the 20, 30, or 10 years they have in 20 minutes. Yeah, I think it's amazing that, I mean, it's amazing, really. I admire the senior mentors who actually, give their time to younger people. I think that's fabulous. But of course, during that path, especially in early career, there are challenges, as there are everywhere, right? And what do you think are maybe the main challenges or main barriers that stand in the way of general research progress, scientific progress?
Oh, Alan, this is a big question you're asking. I feel like we
A
should have
big
a
question
conference.
for a big guest. So
I think we should have conference about this. um, hmm. I thought you were going to ask me a question. What is the biggest challenge for young researchers? And it's not only for young researchers, I think it applies to all of us. And that is that oftentimes we stand in our own way. So we have these preconceived notions of what it is or how it is that I should be acting or delivering. Just understand one thing. This is probably what applies perhaps to the question that you asked, and I'm kind of skimming over the depth of answers we could have. But understand all of us are humans. Understand that most of us who go into especially healthcare related research, we are driven by almost obsessive, compulsive passions to help, to find ways to provide hope and healing. So if you position yourself from that point of view, from that perspective, everything else that comes into play, meaning networking, reaching for mentors and sponsors, bringing these tools, understanding that all of us are continuously learning, becomes a lot less anxiety inducing, or because that's one of the things that I oftentimes see, not only with young researchers, I see it with seasoned researchers as well. There is this pressure to perform, there is the pressure to provide or ensure another grant, to write a paper, to deliver on due deadlines, and so on. I think, if anything, I would say we need to remind ourselves why we're in it in the first place and lead with kindness. And I know this is kind of a cop-out answer, but it's true from my experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I fully agree with what you said, and standing in your own way is a very important message. And I feel like some people don't maybe even perceive that they are standing in their own way. And just I had this lecture at here at Harvard College, I think a month ago or 2 months ago, and the last message I gave the students here was, it was like a shameless promotion of Nike, but it doesn't really matter. And the message was just do it. And I really believe in the just do it mentality. Go for it, be proactive, and I feel like life will give you the opportunity. It really depends on you if you will take it or not.
I
So
could not agree more. And apologies for interrupting. I was going to say, we talked about this just to do it a couple of times, and
yeah,
I'm a firm believer in that. And that basically translated means progress, focus on
yeah,
progress, not perfection. There is no such thing as perfection, just focus on progress. And then have really your own mental checklist of things to say, what does the progress look like specifically as a actionable practical outcome. I have completed my draft by May 30th or whatever
Yeah.
that is translated into practical. But and sometimes, Alena, I don't know how it is for you, but sometimes it's very helpful to have a list of things that you have already achieved,
Yeah.
because it can help you just kind of keep you in a positive state of mind.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I'll probably finish with this and then ask you the final question. Here is I listened to a podcast maybe earlier this week or so, and the person, he's a very senior director of a large corporation. He said every single day, before the day finishes, he reviews what he did, what he accomplished that day, and he makes a schedule for the next day, and then every day like that. So he actually gets the almost the kind of gratification. Okay, I actually achieved this, today. Let's move on to the next thing tomorrow. So I think it's
Yeah.
super
So
important to, yeah.
speaking of which, that's kind of what the list looks like, right?
Exactly. So you're doing it. Maybe I listened to you actually on the podcast.
No, no. But I want to say I agree even with that part. I think it's just from the experience that
Yeah.
does work. It's that
Yeah.
dopamine boost that you get that you need.
Definitely. And the final point here, which I think is really important, is open access in science. There's many people, on one side saying open access is super necessary need. On the other hand, other people are saying, well, journals need to finance themselves from something. We cannot provide it for free. So I don't know, what's your opinion about open access? How do you believe it's super important for early career researchers, or maybe not? What's your take on it?
Well, I'll give you the short answer. I do think it's important. I've seen it and heard it from young researchers and young clinicians, translational researchers as well, who would say it provided me with that first experience of what it means and how it is to publish, what is needed, what does the process look like. And it was, there were barriers that they perceived, maybe trying elsewhere, and they were able, obviously, to be successful with publishing in this kind of way. I think it's great. First of all, why do I think it's great? I think health should be democratized, knowledge should be democratized, knowledge should be shared, and I'm a huge proponent of this shared learning model, and I think this allows that to happen in a more in kind of osmotic way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I fully agree. And maybe one point, the last point here is, I don't know if when you were just starting out your career, if you had access to these journals. I remember, from med school, I didn't have access to all the journals, and I do believe that kind of hindered almost the curiosity in one way, because you saw a cool paper, you wanted to read it, but then you had to pay 50 euros or whatever, and really very few people, I guess, pay for that. So what's your take maybe on the distribution of open access across the world, especially in places where maybe they don't have the funding to actually pay for
Yeah,
open
that's
access?
exactly. I should interview you, really, because you would provide a lot more insightful answers here. But that's exactly what I meant with democratized learning. This is exactly the reason, or one of the reasons, why this is important. So I was in a position, and just brief history on my end here. I came from 90s, late 90s in former Yugoslavia, where there was none of that available. Like, I had no money for basic needs, not to say to invest the money into a prestigious journal where I really wanted to understand what's happening with the newest and the greatest and the latest. And I remember that imprinted in my brain, as far as then coming here, and especially now, where I feel like I'm a kid in a candy shop. I literally can get access to all of these things, no matter if I am, whatever part of the world that might be, or no matter what my economic situation or socioeconomic situation might be. This is why I'm a huge believer in democratized and shared learning and access to the knowledge, to the data.
I think it's a great way to end this interview, with democratizing knowledge, really across the world. Adriana, it's been a huge pleasure, as always, to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Alan, and my pleasure. Thank you.